Newcastle's goal was their only shot on target throughout. Southampton created quite a few chances, couldn't convert them. That possession stat is quite something as well, considering, of course, the Newcastle at home. Granted, they only had 10 men. Who watched this? Did you watch this?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, the game was conditioned by the red card.
Yep.
And give credit to Newcastle that they defended really well. What I would say is that Southampton could have played 90 minutes, 180 minutes, could have played until next week. It just never really got the sense that they were going to be truly goal dangerous. And Newcastle, and again, this is a conversation that we have time and time again. Why is a team like Southampton trying to play out of the back? And one of the few occasions in which Newcastle was actually willing to press higher the field, that they actually had numbers to press, even though they're playing a man down. And this is a moment in which Southampton tries to play out of the back. They lose in a bad area. Joelinton puts it away, and then Newcastle defended really well. Southampton, they just don't have a whole lot going forward.
You're playing against 10 men. You've got to play the game on the other half of the field. Mm-hmm. You know, when you're not particularly... And Southampton, OK, you do it in the Championship, you pass out from the back, which they did, but they got away with it a lot of times last season as well doing that. We were quite lucky. And so you've got to take advantage of the situation. And you've got to take advantage in the Premier League when you are relegation candidates. You've got to take advantage. And they completely didn't. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of that is down to the fact that the coach never changed the tactics, because they should have been playing the game on the other side of the field and not on your own side of the field.
Meanwhile, the late game in the Premier League would see West Ham take on Aston Villa. This probably, you could argue, the hardest one to call when you take a look at all the fixtures in the opening weekend of action in the Premier League. So it finishes Aston Villa 2, West Ham 1. A lot of questions around Aston Villa about how they will cope both in the Champions League and the Premier League this season. They're making the most, of course, the fact there is no Champions League at the moment, kicking things off with a win. Lovely jubbly. Happy days, Stevie.
Yeah, and they deserved it, I thought. You know, they were in complete and utter control of this game up until the penalty kick. And I'm a bit like Ali, I think it's a little harsh. It changed things, but there's no question they were the better side. I mean, it's a little early to look at West Ham and wonder what's going to happen, because you've got one side in Villa, although they have made some changes, you could see that they've played together. They were a lot smoother. You could see patterns, you could see all kinds of connections, which West Ham just did not have. I mean, it just was not there. And West Ham looked like the West Ham of last season. So, yeah, Villa completely deserved to win the game, in my opinion. But for West Ham, probably a bit early to judge where they're going to be. Yeah,
West Ham clearly a work in progress, Jules. But overall, Unai Emery delighted, especially when you think how they started last season with that heavy defeat against Newcastle to get the win today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's coaching as well in the second half. I mean, Ramsey and Duran link up for the second goal really, really well. We saw Madsen coming on too. And I felt his substitutions really in that second half, where it was 1-1 and the game I could have gone either way, were really good. So I agree with Stevie. I think they deserve to win. And Bailey hit the post in the first half as well, even before the penalty. So it could have been even better. Rodgers was good. Watkins, maybe not so much. And Duran came on for him for the last half an hour. For West Ham, it's a bit early. I mean, we saw Guido Rodriguez starting, coming from La Liga and Betis, and was not ready for the pace and the intensity of the Premier League. It was quite clearly, when you compare him and Onana, for example, just two different worlds. So West Ham are going to get better under Lopetegui, but it was really good from Aston Villa. I didn't expect Aston Villa, to be fair, to be that good on the first game like this away at West Ham.
Elsewhere, let's just take a look at the rest of the results, shall we? A bad start for Everton, losing at home 3-0 to Brighton. Meanwhile, Forest looked like they'd done enough to get the win against Bournemouth, but a late goal from the visitors meant that would finish 1 apiece. The action continues tomorrow. Brentford against Crystal Palace. On Monday, it's Leicester against Spurs.